Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet. Share with your friends. Hit that little notification bell so you can get notified when new patterns release. All our videos are available in left and right-handed tutorials.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal, and today we're going to be making this Lacey Ridges wrap. Now if you can see that awesome texture in there. You've got, it's corner to corner. We're working this out corner to corner. The back side also has texture, different than the front. So it's double-sided, two different ways. And we're also going to be making this scarf. Well, I'm going to teach you how to make the project. You can turn it into a scarf, you can turn it into a wrap, you can turn it into a blanket, you can turn it into whatever it is you want to turn it into, a big blanket, however you like. But this is what it will look like on. I made mine 60 inches long and 30 inches wide. Don't forget to join us on our Jolie Knots Crochet community in Facebook. I'd love to see the colors that you guys chose and the size that you guys are going for. Alright, so the yarn that we're using today is Ice Yarns in Cakes Erin. We are using, it is a 100% acrylic yarn. It comes in a 200 gram cake and about 360 meters, so approximately 400 yards in this cake. The colors are unbelievable. I used 3 of these for the wrap and 1 of them for the scarf. We're also going to be using a 6.5 millimeter hook and a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. In order to get started on this, we're going to take a slip knot. And we're going to chain 5. Now into the 4th chain from the hook, we're going to put 2 double crochets. Our chain 3 here is going to count as a double crochet. And then into our last chain, we're going to put 2 more double crochets. And that's the beginning of your first row. Now moving on to row 2, we're going to chain 2. That will not count as a stitch. Turn your work, and we're going to put a V-stitch in the first stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into that same first stitch. Now you're going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and into the next, which will be your middle stitch, you'll put another double crochet. Now you'll chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and into your last stitch, this will be the top of your chain 3 here, we're going to work a V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Row 3 is going to be your repeat row. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put 3 double crochets right into the first stitch. Now we're going to double crochet into every chain space and every stitch all the way down and to the last stitch. When you get to your last stitch, we're going to put 3 double crochets into the last stitch. And this is what your third row should look like. Now getting started on row 4, our repeat, it's a 2 repeat row, 3 and 4. And then when we start decreasing, it's also going to be a repeat of the 2 rows, okay? So now on row 4, this is your next repeat row. We're going to chain 2, turn our work. Chain 2 does not count as a stitch. And we're going to V-stitch into our first stitch, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and front post double crochet around the next. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and front post double crochet. That's your mini repeat. Chain 1, skip 1, front post double crochet. Your front post double crochets should always line up with the double crochets from the row before, the ones with the chain spaces in between. It'll do that throughout the whole pattern. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, front post double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and front post double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch. That brings us to the last stitch of our row, and we're going to put a V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. That's your row 4. This is the back side of your project. There is texture on both sides, but what we're designing here has the ridges up at the front. Okay, so now you're going to chain 2 and turn your work, and we're going to repeat row 3. So we're going to have 3 double crochets into our first stitch, and then we're going to double crochet into every chain space and every stitch all the way down. When you begin your decrease will always begin after you finish a solid row. So this is our solid row, and I'm going to show you how to decrease. Now, to make a square, of course you're going to decrease on both sides, or when you begin to stop with your rectangle. As we're making a rectangle, we are going to decrease on one side and continue increasing on the other side. So let me show you. I've got my 3 more double crochets into this last stitch. When we start our decreases, remember we'll always start after we finish our solid double crochet row. Okay, so how we're going to begin a decrease is to chain 2 and turn our work. We are going to be working 2 double crochet 2 together. So over the first stitch, do a partial double crochet. We're not finishing that, so you should still have 2 loops on your hook. Now we're going to skip 1 stitch, and into the 3rd stitch we're going to do another partial double crochet. However, because this is a front post double crochet row, we're not going into the stitch. We're doing a partial front post double crochet. Now that you've got 3 loops on your hook, you'll yarn over and you'll pull through all. And then we're going to continue with our row. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, front post double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and front post double crochet. You'll continue doing that all the way down. Now, if you're working a rectangle, like I said, I mean this can be square or rectangle, we're not going to start decreasing on the other side. We're going to continue increasing. So I'm going to continue my increasing for this row, and then we'll decrease on our next solid row. So remember, your increase sign is a V-stitch in your last stitch. And this is what your work should look like so far. So we've just started turning our corner here. Okay? Now what we're going to do is chain 2, work our 3 double crochets here because we're still at our increase. double crochet into every stitch and chain space all the way down. Okay, now for our decrease in our solid row. These were double crochet 2 together, so this is counting as 1 stitch. Then we've got our chain space and we've got our front post double crochet here. This is what we will decrease over. So we're going to double crochet 2 together. So into your double crochet here, we're putting a partial double crochet. Now we're skipping our chain space and then we're going to partial double crochet into our last stitch. So you should have 3 loops on your hook now, and then you'll yarn over and pull through all your loops. Chain 2, turn your work, and remember we're double crocheting 2 together over your first stitch, skipping 1 stitch, and then over your third stitch, front post partial double crochet, and then yarning over, pulling through all loops, chain 1, skip 1, front post double crochet. Oops. So now that we've completed this solid row underneath, and you have worked and worked and worked and continued to do your rectangle increases, when you are ready to decrease both sides, let me show you how we're going to do that. Okay. Got 1 more front post double crochet, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and now you should have 3 stitches left. So over your third stitch from the end, you're going to front post double crochet but partial. And now into your last stitch, we're going to double crochet partial. Now you'll yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches, 3 loops, chain 2, turn your work, and now you can see that we've turned that corner. So we're working up this way. We started turning that corner. We've already got this corner turned, so it's going to keep going straight up. Now here on this side in our decrease, we're double crocheting 2 together over the first stitch, skipping our chain space, and then over the next stitch. That's how we're decreasing. And now we're going to continue double crocheting into every chain space and every stitch until you have 3 stitches left. Alright, here we are with our 3 stitches left, which is our double crochet, our chain space, and then our double crochet 2 together. So we're going to double crochet 2 together over our double crochet and over our double crochet 2 together. We're skipping our chain space. And that's what that row should look like. Now chain 2, turn your work. This is our front post row, so remember our first partial double crochet, skip 1, and then our next partial front post double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, front post double crochet, all the way down until we have 3 stitches left. Now we've got 3 stitches left. I just worked into my third stitch. So remember that one is a partial front post double crochet, skipping the next stitch, and then partial double crochet into the last. And pull through all. Chain 2, turn your work, double crochet 2 together over the first stitch, skipping your chain space, and over the next stitch, double crochets into every chain space and double crochet until you have 3 stitches left. Here's my 3 stitches left, so I'm partial double crochet into the last double crochet and the double crochet 2 together, skipping the chain space yet again. Okay, now chain 2 and turn your work. This is our last row. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So what we're going to do here is we are going to double crochet 2. We're going to double crochet 3 together. And the first one is going to be over your first stitch. Your next one will be the center stitch here, because we're skipping the next stitch. And now skipping the stitch after that, our next partial double crochet is going to be into the last stitch. So skipping and skipping, you should have 4 loops on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 4, chain 1, so you can fasten off. And this is what the back side of your work will look like, and this is what the front side of your work will look like. Now, one of these sides is going to curl up a little bit, which is normal, and all I do is steam it. I steam it so it starts to lay flat, and that's a more permanent way of blocking. So I don't pin it or anything, I just steam it and flatten it out, and it really just sits flat, so that's all it needs. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see your scarves or wraps or blankets or baby blankets or whatever it is you choose to do with this Lacey Ridges pattern. And join the Facebook group Jolie Knots Crochet Community and show us all your work. Thanks for watching.